have some questions for Dr. Murray. So effectively, this bill is proposing to cut taxes for foreign investors. Is that right?
That's one of the major features of it, as far as I understand. Yep.
Okay. And do you think this is the top priority in the housing space? I know you've just written a book about housing.
Not at all. I mean, Australian housing already attracts a huge amount of investment. There's no problem with a lack of money trying to get into Australian housing. And I find it interesting because we've already even got foreign investment funds doing build to rent. And what's even funnier is that the largest one is a foreign government. So we've got the Abu Dhabi Investment Council, who owns the Smith Collective on the Gold Coast. It's just 1,251 build to rent dwellings, and we're now proposing to offer them a better tax treatment for something they're already doing to a foreign government. And I find that a sort of a bizarre outcome of this sort of proposed bill.
So it looks to me that this is an effort to try and change the character of Australian housing. Who are the people that own most of the houses now?
Almost all are owned by Australian residents directly. 67% are owned by homeowners, about 30% by private individuals directly, and then a few percent in public housing. So the whole idea of having an extra corporate layer between the property ownership and the individual, is really about avoiding taxes and getting different advantages. And this is just sort of adding another element to that game.
So is this an American idea? Where does this idea of corporate housing come from?
Oh, look, it's not. I mean, there's a lot of corporate housing all across Europe. There's a lot of corporate housing in the US. Prior to the invention of strata title, a lot of major apartment buildings in Australian cities were owned by a single company, and then we carved that ownership up with company title. But it's just sort of a new, financial trend that has emerged this property cycle in Australia, and every cycle has a new trend like this in terms of their financial arrangements.
So who becomes the property czars in this world of corporate housing? Is it the Vanguard and the super funds like CBUS, or is it someone else?
My suspicion is that this bill, because of the tax withholding changes, sort of advantages even the foreign investment funds over the local ones, or the foreign owners in those funds. And so I suspect it'll just be foreign pension funds, just like the Abu Dhabi Investment Council and other sort of long-term low-risk funds.
So effectively, the Labor government is proposing a 15% reduction in tax for these investors in this bill. The industry is asking for a further tax reduction to 10%. Is that? I mean, what's the?
It's not clear it's not clear to me what the intended effect of that is, right? That's just giving money to certain groups. And as we've heard from many people this morning, the build-to-rent sector is already growing without these tax advantages. And we've seen that it's, build-to-rent projects that already exist and won't change the supply of homes want to get these tax advantages, because clearly the tax benefit in terms of its financial value is much, much higher than the reduction in rent required by the inclusion of affordable housing. And that's why existing projects want to get on board with it, even though it seems to me like a bit of sovereign risk to change the tax settings on existing projects. And we know how much they shouldn't like that.
Yeah, okay. But in essence, this is, in your estimation, a version of our tax and housing arrangements to try and give a leg up to foreign institutions who, frankly, can already do this if they want to.
Yeah, correct. Now, you might say that the tax treatment is uneven for some reason. Well, that's true of all tax treatments, and it's not clear to me why, local investors shouldn't be advantaged over foreign investors in Australian housing. I don't see there's a good argument.
Yeah, I agree.
levelling the playing field there. And it's not clear to me, if the intention is to attract super funds into this, why owning your own home via your super fund is better than renting your own home from your super fund is better than owning your own home and using that money to buy what is the best asset to own in retirement.
Well, maybe you could just own your own house yourself with your own money.
It would be a simpler
idea.
It's much simpler than this sort of outcome.
Yeah, and just finally, do you have any sense of how do you think Australians would react to renting forever to a foreign corporation?
Look, Australians actually aren't. They're renting a little bit longer in life, but typically by retirement, home ownership is still very high, and that's because of the long-term advantages to being a homeowner. And of course, this is the very advantage long-term that investors in build to rent are looking for, being a long-term owner of a home and getting those future rents. I think the long-term rental won't be a thing until there is much stricter controls and limits on the ability to increase rents and much more rights for the tenants to sort of take ownership, more of a European style thing, but that doesn't seem to be part of the mix in this conversation.
Thanks, Dr.